Thank you, everybody, for joining the second episode of Buildertrend's financial series. My name is Reece Barnes. I'm an additional training consultant, and I'm here with my co-host, Zach Wojtowicz. Zach, how are you?
Good, man. How are you doing today?
I am good, ready to keep diving into the series here. Obviously, last time we had discussed our fundamentals of cost codes. That is the basics. Why do we have them? Why do we use them? What is the importance? This is going to be getting a little bit deeper into the granularity. What features do we have? What do we do? Thank God Zach is here, because he will be able to give you so much more depth than I will be able to, as he is the scholar and I am the talker. What we're going to be going over today in the granularity. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, if you tuned in last time, you know how important the cost code element to this. And if you got the email or are listening to this on the podcast, make sure you check out episode 1. The presenters, they could use some work, but the information is fantastic. Just
Bar none.
so useful. It's going to really benefit you in the long term to think about how those cost codes are set up, how they're structured. And today we're going to look more at, okay, I've got my cost code set up. What do I do now? What's next? What can I actually start doing in Buildertrend? You've been teasing us for so long about how important is the cost code, and I just want to get using it now. And that's a thing we hear all the time. I just want to use it. Where do I start? And so we thought it'd be good to recommend some features in the program that many users don't ever get to. For whatever reason, they're busy. It's hard to adopt software, obviously. Maybe you wouldn't be listening if it were easy. So where do I go?
Zach.
Where do I start?
We are going to start.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to keep going? I cut you off. That's fine. Keep going.
You go. You got this. Where are we going to go?
I was going to say, we want to basically the little synopsis, high level here. What are we going to prioritize after establishing our cost codes? But then like Zach was saying in a few more sentences than they probably should have, the recommended features and functionality of using Buildertrend's cost codes. So first, where do we start? Like we touched on the last time, cost codes really are the first step to using Buildertrend financials. You got to have them. They got to be sharp. They got to be relevant in order for you to truly get all of the value out of Buildertrend's financial suite. But ultimately, Zach's going to start going into the granularity of the features, cost catalogs, templates, estimates, proposals, making sure the budget is reading all of that. Zach, I'm going to stop talking. You can pick up.
Right. So one of the first things we want to talk about today is the concept of what's called the cost catalog. Now, Reece, when you hear the word catalog, tell me, what do you think of? What does that word really bring up in your mind?
I think it was Christmas 1996. I was going through the Cabela's catalog, circling all the things that I wanted. It was basically just a big compilation of all of their product in specific outlines and details. I'd circle it. I'd hand the catalog to my parents, who I thought were Santa, and they wound up under the tree.
Right.
That's what I think of when I think of catalog.
Right. And in that catalog, it would have had price, would have had the details. It would have had the different options that you could purchase of different materials. If you were looking at a new jacket, you might have different colors and different vendors and all those things. And at the end of the day, that's what Buildertrend's catalog is really set up to do. It allows you to really get into more specific products of things that you're able to provide for your customers. You're always
on the last podcast, we were talking about cost codes, obviously. Now this is cost catalog, and we were talking about cost codes being kind of the overarching bucket. Is this where we get to the specifics? I might have cut you off, and that's probably what you're going to explain.
Right. Yeah.
More or less. That's more or less what the cost catalog is. So this is if you want the specific and the detail, then really that's where the cost catalog is going to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. I always use the analogy, and I get some weird looks, but hey, why not? This is what I use when I'm with my clients.
That's a normalcy for you, getting weird looks.
What's that supposed to mean?
Rebound. Here we go.
Do this to me, and
here we go.
National television or whatever this is.
NPR.
So, yeah. So do me a favor, go to the
next slide, please.
Yep. And
cool.
And I always use the example of, think of it as like a tree trunk. in the branches.
What's the tree trunk and what's the branches?
Your cost code is the trunk.
Okay.
Okay. The things that make up the catalog though are the branches. So
Gotcha.
you could have one appliance code, and I use this in our episode 1 as kind of the
Okay.
example because everybody I've run into has an item called appliances.
Okay.
But you might have a specific vendor that you are using these appliances from. So you would have a cost catalog item called refrigerator, oven, range. This is where you can get more specific. Better yet, in the description of these items, you could have color, you could have vendor, you could have a standard price, a standard markup. These are things that are saved in relation to the cost code. So now I have a nice condensed list for my budget. But when I go and build my proposal, I can choose things from my catalog and say, I need this for this job, I need this for this job, I need this for this job. Right? You with me?
Yeah. Okay. So without the cost code, you can't have the cost catalog.
Exactly. So you got to get
Again,
the floor
you
set up.
have to get the cost codes.
Got to have the tree trunk to have the tree branches, right?
It's like Buildertrend is just a big forest full of trees, and then plenty of luscious branches being the cost catalog.
Nailed it. Yes. So the whole idea behind this catalog and why it takes so long for people to get to this point is if they never have a good cost code list, why would we recommend them to set up their catalog? Or a lot of times the list that they do have for cost codes are their catalog, and it's just easier to import that at that point because that's what you're used to doing. But if you've now taken the time to go through and audit your list, condense it, make it nice and tight, you can get more messy in Buildertrend and save you a lot of time when you're going and setting up a proposal or an estimate. Or these can also be applied to bills or POs or to selecting
Gotcha.
some of the pro features that we offer. It can really speed up a lot of your day-to-day operations because you're able to just pull from the catalog and say this is the item that I'm using. You don't have to fill out the details. Now, is there some setup for this? Absolutely. We have some limitations right now to be able to show you how all this works, but this is something, if you're asking what do I do next, I've got my cost codes down, where do I go? This is a great place now. You're a great candidate to be able to use this and really get a nice rich feature that isn't really implemented as much as we'd like to see. With that, what's cool is you can update the pricing from within Buildertrend, and if that catalog item is used somewhere in the program that's not approved or hasn't finished,
That's
it will,
big. Okay.
it will update the pricing of wherever it's used, which leads into our
That's
second
big.
huge, because now I'm updating a price in one place, and anywhere it's being touched, I can just have it updated on the fly. So any proposals I'm working on that haven't been finished yet,
That's
right?
the big part, though, isn't it? Is finished. Like if you
Yeah,
have an approved
doesn't change.
proposal, not going to change it.
Nope.
This
Well,
is
now,
just when we're again, cost catalog is associated with the cost code. If I'm working within the actual proposal
right,
and I'm not done and I update my cost catalog, then that's going to pump those numbers into my proposal.
right, exactly.
Beautiful.
And even cooler is you can take those items that you've set up. So you've got the code, we break into items, and now you can say, okay, these 5 items, they make up a common group that I sell to people. Maybe I have a framing package of items that make up all my wood lumber, and all I need to enter is how much square feet apply to these items. And now I'm pulling in an entire chunk of my estimate with one click. All of this takes a little setup, but you can really get some cool and effective estimates with just a few importations of groupings because those items are all set up. So you got to get your codes first. Now that you got that, you can get your catalog. And then once you get your catalog, you can put them into groups. And now you have a really great estimating tool to just plug and play and pump things out.
Here's my thing.
Yep.
In short, is the juice worth the squeeze? How long? Obviously, this is going to vary by type of contractor, how many products you offer, whatever. I want to use this. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How long is this going to take? This is me working 60 hours a week GCing homes. How long is this going to take for me to get the cost catalog built out, or one of my employees or whoever? A ballpark.
It's how much time have you spent on your codes at this point? If the codes are good, then
Okay.
it's going to be substantially less. And my experience with builders is a lot of times they already have a pricing sheet set up. So
Okay.
if that is already there, now you're just taking your already existing catalog, or excuse me, pricing sheet, and making it the catalog and tying it to the code. This can all be done in Excel.
Okay.
Importing it into Buildertrend is super easy. You just have to have the Excel file formatted to meet our system requirements. This is a recommendation that I will give you, which is to reach out to your coach and ask, I'd like to get my cost catalog set up. I heard on the web series that that this is a place I could go to improve my usage, and they can provide that for you so that the all you have to do is match it to your codes, and they can walk you through it. But I'd say 5 to 6 hours is a realistic number to get this set up. But if you look at the time savings on every estimate that you're using in the program, it's gonna way out, it is going to be worth the squeeze, as you so eloquently laid out.
Hey, you gotta roll those in
Yeah.
sometimes.
Now, this also feeds into another thing of where do I start now that I have cost codes, which is templating. Okay. And templating is a really important piece to Buildertrend, regardless of financials. If you're not using templates, then you're not really using Buildertrend, in my opinion. And I hear this a lot. Whoa, I'm a custom home builder and I have
Hey,
don't
hey,
care.
hey, whoa. Okay. I know a couple of custom home builders. They don't sound
I
like
know.
that.
Well, okay.
Come on, keep
But
going. Sorry.
so
Yes, you're right though. That is something that I hear too on my calls. Custom home builder. I don't have a schedule that looks the same. I don't have this. I don't have that. At the end of the day, we can find something to template that's going to make you more efficient. You're going
right,
to manipulate. You're going to do this stuff. But instead
right.
of doing everything from scratch, you're going to drop it in with a template and then manipulate. It's not a 0 to a 100 usage. It's
Yes,
a 0 to 60, 30, 80, whatever that looks
absolutely.
like.
Templating is about moving up your starting procedures on any project, no matter who the builder is. I've worked with high-end custom home, $30 million mansions in LA, and they're able to utilize templates effectively. And it doesn't make it 100% done when it's not just plug it in and you don't have to look at Buildertrend again. It's a tool, right?
Right.
But if they can get 70% of the project in place, that still saves them a substantial amount of time when they're talking about managing their project and setting it up. We want to focus today on the actual proposal and estimating template, but just from a from a philosophical standpoint, templating is Buildertrend. Buildertrend is templating. You
Sure.
are putting data into the system so that you can reuse it again. And for companies that fight us on this, they need to open their eyes to the fact that this is the best way to use the system. It's begging you to reuse data,
Right.
right? And that's why you're putting it in there. So
Cool.
a lot of
So how
times,
cost catalog is relevant to estimating?
yeah.
Sorry.
How do we tie the knot here? Well, you think about your Excel sheet that a lot of our builders, we talked about this
Okay.
last time, like that's where you start when you're trying to get cost codes. Well,
Right.
in a way, your template, that's a template. I have a new
Sure.
project. My
Yeah.
Excel sheet is a template. We're now transitioning that into Buildertrend. I've got cost codes. I could build a sales proposal for my different types of projects. Maybe I do kitchens, maybe I do bathrooms, maybe I do kitchen and bathrooms, a little double action.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
I have different proposal templates for those types of projects, right? Within
Gotcha.
that proposal template, I've already formatted what cost codes I typically use. We know things change. What is our most frequently expected cost on
Love
a
it.
kitchen? And I
Yep.
even encourage people, make it more. A little tip, it's easier to delete stuff out of Buildertrend than it is to put stuff in. So if you have a template that's anticipating the absolute busiest scenario, it's able to just tail it back a little bit, pull it back a little bit, and make it fit this project rather than have to add things to it. So try and go a little further than you normally would. What's cool though is if I am in a situation where I am a production builder or I have something that I know I'm always paying the same prices for, and I've
Massive.
set up my catalog, I can use the catalog to build my templates. And now when I'm updating that catalog in one place, I might have 6 templates tied to that catalog, but they're all going to be the most up-to-date pricing. Now your salespeople aren't accidentally
Bingo.
reusing the wrong Excel sheet, the outdated one, or something that you have to redistribute. That's human error.
Yeah.
You're able to manipulate it once it's become a real proposal. Like once I pull it in the lead, if I don't want it to be tied to the catalog, I can undo it and make edits at that point. But it's going to be the best way for me to administer the way that I create my numbers for my client, right?
Saves time.
Saves time. Everything's tied
Checks and
together.
balance.
Yep.
Quality check.
Yep. All
Consistency.
yes. That's the biggest thing, right? I think that's chaos comes to people who are just kind of running without a plan. Putting templates in place is the plan. This is what we
Sure.
use, and this is how we use it, and this is where
Right.
the data is coming from.
Right. It's the framework. You're going to manipulate it. We understand that. It's still going to save you 2 hours in job setup.
Yep. Right. So those 6 hours you spent building the catalog, now your proposals are pumped out, and yeah, you might have to update your pricing every 3 months, which will take a little time, although not as much as you think. You can just update it using checked actions in the catalog setup, but you'd probably take that. If I were to lay it down on paper and say, yeah, you have to put a little time up front, but look at what it's going to do on every project, it really speaks for itself. So how is that different than estimate templates? Well, if you're a core user, the estimate is just pulled from the proposal side of thing. But if you're a pro user, you have access to a comprehensive document called an estimate, which has selections. So my allowances that I set up, my bids
Nice.
that I set up, and any general items that I set up can all derive kind of a nebula of things in my Buildertrend account that build my budget.
What is nebula?
Just a connection of things.
Like a
And
tree.
yes, always back to the forest. So, if I have my most common bids templated using my cost codes,
Okay.
if I have my most common allowances using my cost codes, when I use that estimate template in my job, those things are already set up and cost coded, and now I'm just editing the amounts, but the structure is already in place, right? I'm just
Okay.
releasing it to my sub with the specs on the bid, or I'm just updating how much the allowance is really for, and I can tie everything into my general items, and now I have a single document that reflects the budget that I'm building in different parts of the program, but it's all coming into one place. But you can
Sure.
do a lot of that up front. So as soon as I import the estimate, guess what? Now I'm just managing the project and getting the numbers.
Okay. I don't want to be redundant and add any more time than we need to, but you were mentioning when you're building all of these templates and you're utilizing the estimates, and we're using the cost codes, and the cost codes are tied to templates. The cost catalog is used at what point? Because on the estimate, you're using the line item cost code. Where is the cost catalog?
You can absolutely use the catalog on the estimate too.
So would it be an either or? It wouldn't be I'm using both. It would be either I'm using cost codes or cost catalogs. It's gonna be a preference
You can
thing
use a combination of both. There are some
because your
things that are
catalog is tied to your cost code.
exactly because you're
That
always
makes
it's just
sense.
splitting it out. And like when
Okay.
you're looking at your estimate in Buildertrend, you might see the same cost code repeated. You might
Okay.
see this is appliance, appliance, appliance. Well, when it goes to your budget, you're going to see it one time. But because you're splitting out the items through descriptions, you're still able to see, the range costs this, the microwave costs this, and the oven costs this, but it all uses the same parent code. So your budget's
Gotcha.
clean, but you're
Okay.
still able to derive detail in the estimate, and then you can get real fancy and group them and display what you want and not display what you want to your customer and make it look the way you want.
Okay.
But ultimately, the goal is I'm putting my estimate here because I'm building my budget while I create my estimate. And I think a lot of companies kind of do that as a separate thing. And Buildertrend kind of, in a good way, forces you to consider your budget while you're building your estimate.
Love it. No, that makes a ton of sense.
Right. And again, just templating from a philosophy standpoint, you have to be using this in Buildertrend, and that can be in the financials as well. I think a lot of people think you can't use it on that part. Every project's so different. Look for the common variables and use those as leverage to save you time moving forward.
Well, and I think it's even worth the 15 seconds to really. That is, yes, templates. You have to use it. It's one of those things like if you're not going to use it, why are you using Buildertrend?
Right.
That's with a lot of features though. Like obviously we're focusing on financials, but like at the end of the day, use the customer support, use our consulting services if you need them, reach out, use the help center, get Buildertrend Learning Academy certified. Like do all of these things and use them strategically to make yourself better, because yes, we do have clients that can, pick and choose features and it works for them. But if you don't really understand the full structure and intentions, which is huge, of the features, then you can miss it. You can miss a ton of value. Little plug there. But yeah, no, that's such a big part. It's never a 0 to 100. It's more times than not a 0 to 80, 0 to 90, 0 to 60. What are we going to use? How are we going to use it? And is it going to make us more efficient?
Yeah, and I find a lot of people are hungry for a plan. Where do I go? And documenting how
Yeah.
that's going to look. And that's one of the main goals of this series is figuring out what's the plan. What do I do
Right.
after I get my cost codes? Well, after you've got these things in place, you can move on to the next thing. But painting that picture of I got my codes, now let's go to the catalog. Now I'm building my proposal. Well, that's my budget now. And then what, right? Where do I go from there? And emphasizing that there is a path that you can carve out for yourself, but you
Sure.
have to really dedicate the time and to learn that as well. But you're not alone either.
You're not alone. And that's genuinely who I talk to every day.
Yeah.
Is people that, they might be getting frustrated, or they might be hitting a little bit of a roadblock. It's really just understanding that it is going to take time. Implementing Buildertrend is going to take time. It's worth it though, because when you take 6 hours to build your cost catalog and you save 2 hours on creating estimates and proposals, I mean, if you're doing more than 3 projects a year, it was a wash.
Right.
So it's one of those things. It's a give and take. You have to put the time in up front. If you don't, pay our consultants. We can do it for you. But to stop shamelessly plugging, let's kind of go into the budget a little more. That's one thing that I know it's kind of everything gets pumped into it.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of clients that'll say, I did an estimate, but it's not showing up here. Why are my numbers different than they are in QuickBooks or whatever the case is? Budget's big. And if we can get the budget, Zach, to at least elaborate on the budget and the importance of it, that'll clear a lot of questions.
Yeah. And everybody has a different procedure of how they track their budget and what they consider the budget. But for the majority of builders, this is kind of the ultimate goal, whether they're aware of it or not when I'm working with them. I'm figuring out how you estimate. I'm figuring out your cost codes. And I have one thing in mind, which is to try and make it so that Buildertrend is your go-to place when you're trying to get information quickly. Because a lot of people, when they're trying to figure out how they did on a project, they're doing it after the fact. They're doing it when the project's over. They're looking at their profit and loss, and they're looking at, did I make money?
For sure.
And that is a way to run a business, and it works. But there are better ways.
Sure.
And you can run an estimated versus actual report in QuickBooks, and that's fine. But that requires a lot of other variables. Do they have a login to QuickBooks? Do they know how to run that report? And if they don't have a login, who are they bothering to run that report and how often?
Right.
So you can streamline a lot of those efficiencies. And episode 3, we're going to get into that QuickBooks integration. So I got to leave it for then.
Sure.
We're running out of time today.
Sure.
But the power of getting your budget into Buildertrend, whether that's by building your proposal and estimate in Buildertrend or importing it into Buildertrend after the fact, is going to be irreplaceable, because then it unlocks all the other features that come with Buildertrend that lets you compare, this was my target and this is what I actually spent, by logging into Buildertrend and clicking the budget button and looking at it and seeing that, and then using that to group it into, I want to look at my spec homes versus my custom homes with a customer versus my production homes, and you can get really fancy with it. But bottom line, without cost codes and without utilizing the full potential of what we offer from a feature standpoint, you're losing out on just the ease and the ability to remove that communication barrier or frustration where I'm having to bother someone in accounting or having them run the report and email it to me. Whatever the case is, the project manager can look at this and say, okay, this is what I projected, this is what I spent, all in one place. So you got to get it in. And we integrate with a lot of different takeoff softwares, but they have to be speaking the same language. And that's where the codes come back in. Yep. So I'm always thinking about this. Bottom line, we have to get things in your budget in Buildertrend.
So budget sounds awesome. Cost codes sound awesome. Cost catalog sounds awesome. Where do people miss the mark? How do clients get to the point to where they have cost codes, they spend all this time doing the cost catalog, they're doing estimates, purchase orders, and whatever, and it's not reflecting in the budget? Obviously, we'd probably have to step back and see specific feature by feature, but what would you say are some of the biggest mishaps that our clients have when they're utilizing the budget wrong? No, there's
Well,
no right, when they're using it wrong.
it's not so much that customers use the budget wrong. It's that the structure of how they set it up could be improved, and then they're not leveraging the full functionality of the program. So one example that I can give you is a lot of customers bring us out to teach them how to job cost in Buildertrend.
Right.
What's the difference between a bill and purchase order within the system, right?
Sure. What is it?
How does it
Quick.
functionality different? Well, the reality about that is, a lot of companies, when they're job costing, they're just looking at bills. So transitioning to a purchase order system in general is really more of controlling your pricing up front. A PO is like a subcontract where you are dictating the terms of, this is what I plan to pay you for the service. This is what your bid was based off of. I'm locking it in at that point, right?
To subs. Okay. Subs vendors.
Yep. So the cool thing in what people fail to understand is, if I PO what I budget for and I wait for my sub to invoice me after the service has been completed, after the work is done, Buildertrend will effectively tell me when I fill the PO out and the payment against the PO, hey, the invoice isn't matching. It's either under or over, right?
Right.
And so now you're catching things in the moment. You're able to identify up front.
Real time.
Okay. The estimate said it was this. The PO was for this. Why isn't the invoice from the sub the same as this? And if you really can get into this situation, and it is possible for all listeners who maybe doubt me, many companies use the PO system in Buildertrend to tell the sub, no, this is what we're paying you, right?
Sure.
If you invoice over the amount, you signed off on this document. They take a hard line in the sand and say, this is what the work required, and you approved it for that amount. But literally, without adjusting the PO amount, you can't overpay on it. And so you're saving money alone by adopting this PO system. And in the budget, you're able to really get a handle on where you're at when you overspent, rather than in QuickBooks, when you're looking back, seeing that a numbers seem off, and then having to dive a little deeper, or even in the estimated versus actual in QuickBooks Desktop, running the report and seeing it at some point. Whereas you could just look straight into Buildertrend and see it in the moment.
So the big thing, the big takeaway, the budget is the reflection of what you have done in Buildertrend.
Yeah.
If it's wrong, you're wrong. We got to go back and do something right.
Well, if it's wrong, yeah,
right?
like you overspent, or
I'm just saying, if the numbers aren't reflecting the way that you want to, is it possible for there to be a system issue, or is this a user issue that we need to coach and train on?
The budget is just a reflection of your estimate.
Okay. Yeah. That's ultimately what I was getting at, is because a lot of people, this isn't a you're wrong, or it's just, how do we correct? And when you do have those issues, don't get frustrated, be eager to find out why. Colin,
and keep in mind, the system has an intention behind how it should be used, and that doesn't always align with how you currently do your business. And that's not a slight to say that you're doing it wrong. It's just that it's hard to write a software that fits everybody's customized needs. Sure. And so trying to align your operations as much as what the software is able to do, with us giving you creative solutions to the things you need, you really can find the balance of how you can leverage Buildertrend to help you learn more about your financial operations of the company. Buildertrend is not perfect as far as how it works for everyone, but it works for thousands of customers as far as how they run their operations. There are many success stories of people getting their budget in place and saving money. I've been in the room. I went to a builder in Pittsburgh where I saved them $50,000 on an estimating error, pointing out how they could track it. I've been to Arkansas and helped them see how they can use bids to lock in those prices and make it so they're not accidentally making the wrong decision when they are creating their estimate. So
when used right, Buildertrend's cheap.
Exactly. It can pay for your software. It can pay for your subscription.
A couple of times. $50,000 is like 100 years of Buildertrend subscription.
I'll trust you on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that. Oh, I'm early, but yeah, no, the budget. That's
I don't think you're early, but
was
we're
that good?
good.
Did you want to close out?
Yeah, let's do it. So, big things to take away here. You've got your cost code set up. Your catalog would be your next place. Get that into your templates. Think about, if you're not going to use the proposal or estimating, how are you going to get your budget back into Buildertrend so that you can really unlock it? And next time, we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic. You thought cost codes were exciting. Let's talk about how QuickBooks and Buildertrend operate. Let's dispel
Gonna be a big one.
the myths out there.
On the QuickBooks integration one, I don't
Can't start
want.
now.
I know we can't, but
Tune
I
in next
want
time.
it.
You're
I
giving
want
it
it
too
to be
much.
straight. I want straight up, no BS. Give me what it does. Why would I do it? Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys.